Okay, today we're going to take a look at the humiliating rout of the invading Russian army out of Ukraine and just how quickly the wheels came off this thing. I mean, I was calling this out very early on, like, days in with Russia's failed attempts to invade Ukraine and Russia's army and military embarrassment. And this is because they'd massed 200,000 troops on the border and they had mostly the element of surprise. And the original plan was kind of sound that, you fly in storm paratroops, you take an airfield, and then you fly in a load of resupplies, then you quickly drive into Kyiv, take the military and civilian leadership, and after that, this causes coordinated military resistance throughout the rest of the country to rapidly diminish. You roll in the tanks, bob your uncle, Sally Sarand, and you're done. Successful invasion. Well, that went wrong immediately when they tried to take the airport with their crack troops, and it's immediately repelled. They then try and drive in all of these troops down all these gazillions of axes of advance, and on maybe the most important one, going towards Kyiv, the capital, that grinds to a halt as well. And the mere fact that these guys have now been camped basically outside of Kyiv for the best part of a month before retreating, I mean, it becomes a tautology that if your army hasn't, true by definition, that if your army's not really moved for a month, then it's kind of lost its fighting efficiency. And this is probably a combination of two factors. The first one is they may well be running low on ammunition. And that might sound crazy, but you think about it. The Russians were probably planning for a short campaign with maybe contingencies for some things going wrong. This contingency probably wasn't something that they were really sensibly considering. And if it's a contingency that you're not sensibly considered, then you're probably not provisioned for it. So when they ground to a halt outside Kyiv, fighting in cities is very munition heavy. Yeah, there are all these ballpark figures in military battles that, at the point of attack, you need like a 3-to-1 superiority in numbers in order to win a battle efficiently. This is Lanchester's law. You go into a city or a built-up area where it's a defender's paradise, this goes up to 7-10 times that. You need a huge superiority in numbers when you're attacking. And if the Russians weren't prepared for this, then they won't have the munitions stockpile for this, which means you've now got choices. This isn't like World War II Russia, where you have factories churning out munitions 24/7, shipping them on railways to the front where you're capping them off at the enemy. Russia will have essentially built up stockpiles of ammunition over an extended period of time, and then they need to be shipped to the right place, or they need to be replaced by manufacture. You don't have this huge manufacturing base for munitions in peacetime. Yeah, so unless they've actually stockpiled the stuff here, they either have to get it from somewhere else or make more of it, both of which are likely to be considerably slower than the rate that you're using munitions in urban warfare. So this is probably one of the reasons why things have kind of ground to a halt outside Kyiv. The second reason is they were sat there in attritional fighting, which, if you take a look at the ballpark numbers, even lowballing it, Russian casualties seem to be in about the 10,000 region. And you might think that's not so bad. I mean, if they started off with 20,000, okay, they lost 10,000. Doesn't sound so bad. Until you realize that actually, with typical armies, fighting in the field, only 10% of the actual people are frontline troops. The rest is all the supply and infrastructure you need for actually fighting. So all of a sudden, 10,000 is roughly, if you assume those 10,000 are roughly frontline strength, you've lost half the frontline strength of the army just like that. And then you add on top of this that in typical war zones, for every guy who actually gets killed, there are somewhere between 3 and 10 casualties, depending on how good your medical care is. So yeah, this army is probably both heavily mauled and not adequately provisioned. Going on, the mere fact that they're retreating says that this isn't going to plan. And yeah, if they weren't planning for it, they probably didn't have the munitions for it either. So, and even just retreating like this is a bloody nightmare. If you think about it, is 200,000 troops over the whole front line. Probably the lion's share probably went towards the most important target, which was Kyiv. So maybe, I don't know, 100,000 on this axis. And now all of a sudden you've got 100,000 troops and you've got to get them out. And yeah, well, where are you going to get the fuel to do this? You need significant amounts of stock, supplies to do all of this. You know, it's the old saying, armies win battles, logistics win wars. Anyway, so the Russian line is that they're repositioning to attack, to go into the Donetsk region, which is immediately sounds suspicious in that, hang on, this is the people who amassed 200,000 troops on the border for a surprise attack. Why are they now announcing where they're sending their troops? So, yeah, the reality is this army here has been badly mauled. In fact, arguably, one of the things that helps them out with the logistics is so many of their vehicles are being destroyed that they don't have to worry about getting them out anymore. Because otherwise, yeah, you've got to get the fuel all the way in to drive the armored vehicles out again. So this army here is likely heavily mauled, and once they get out, they're just going to be reconstituted or something. They are absolutely not going to be repositioned to the Donetsk region. And so if there are extra folks who come into the Donetsk region, there'll be probably fresh troops from elsewhere in the country. Now, will they do any better than the guys who attacked Kyiv? Well, they got some stuff going in their favor, some stuff going against them. What they got going in their favor is the original invasion plan. As far as I can tell, they told very little to the actual troops about what they were going to be doing tomorrow. It's like, you know, surprise, we're invading tomorrow. Oh, and they'll be welcoming us like liberators. Not quite how it happened. So the B team here, if they do show up, they will probably be briefed more along the lines of, actually, yeah, you're going into a region where people will be trying to kill you, not welcome you as liberators. So they will have more realistic expectations about going in. What they've got going against them is two things. First of all, they're likely to be the B team. You know it's likely to be the B team because you usually send the A team in to get stuff done quickly. That's usually the way it goes in war. Is you move quickly and you win decisive battles. You don't send the A team in, get them to retreat, and then hope the B team carries the day. And secondly, of course, that, you know, initially they had the element of surprise. Now Ukraine is expecting it, and also Ukraine has been flooded with weapons that seem to be very efficient at wiping out or destroying Russian armor and Russian helicopters, which makes things maybe a rather depressing proposal for the Russians here. Now, when you're taking a look at where you're going to attack, there are three general factors that you look for. First one is surface area, such that if you get something like this is called a salient, basically where bits bump into the enemy lines. So the obvious thing with salients is you cut them off. So you have attacks that come up here, attacks that come down here, and if they do it quickly, then they cut off all the resupply from the guys in the salient. They don't get any more munitions, they don't get any more food, they don't get any more medical care, and this diminishes their fighting ability, and then they're basically forced to surrender. So the idea is go. So yeah, this is an obvious point of attack as a salient, and if you're being really bold, you would cut off this salient here. But seeing as they've not made any progress towards Kharkiv in a month, and Dnipro is a similarly large city, and the Russians really haven't had a lot of success fighting into cities, it seems unlikely. And the Southern Army looks like it blew most of its munitions. They've made a decent mess of Mariupol, and like I was saying, this takes a lot of munitions. So they might also, unless the plan all along was to rubble basically every Ukrainian city, it's unlikely that they'll need massive resupply before they can do anything here. So that's one of the factors, surface area. So yeah, the obvious point is you cut off the salient. The other things that you look for is where are the rivers, where are the roads, or railways, but mostly rivers and roads. So if you take a look at the main axis of attack here, it's they attacked basically down two roads. There aren't many roads in this part of Ukraine, so roads become important. Because if you want to attack in with 10,000 troops, you've got to get enough food to feed 10,000 troops down those supply lines. So roads are important. Rivers are important because if you're trying to cross a river and you blow up the bridge, well, unless the army has come prepared to build a bridge, or a temporary bridge, pontoon bridge, that sort of thing, then that's it. The army's not going to be moving anymore, which is kind of what all this is about. All these support troops, they're basically the people who do things like bridging and all that sort of thing. So what's the terrain like in this region? Is it actually easy to cut off this salient? And so we're just going to take an eyeball inspection of what Ukraine looks like geologically. So, and it's got poor resolution, but whatever, it doesn't matter. This is Ukraine. This is obviously a big-ass river. And this was, if I remember right, this was important in World War II, both going backwards and forwards. This is the region that we're interested in here is Kharkiv. So the Russian lines, basically, Luhansk and Donetsk are in Russian hands. Mariupol's having a bad time. So this is if you're looking at cutting off the salient, this is basically the line that you'll be looking at. So there is some sort of river, obviously, that goes through here, as you can see from all of the green stuff. And this place here is where they're currently fighting. Let's try and pronounce it. Severodonetsk, I would guess. Servodonetsk, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, it's a similar sized place to Mariupol, and Mariupol held out fairly well. And so, where is he? Severodonetsk is up here somewhere. I've lost it. There he is. So it's a similar sized place, and there is terrain around here, which makes defense better, easier. Once you get out of there, of course, you do get, in this region, you get very much into the wide open lands where there is very little in the way of terrain. So this is much more a attacker's paradise, in that, if the enemy is dug in on the line, all you have to do is break through the line, cut them off at the back, and then basically you've either captured or killed everyone who is left behind. It's much better for wars of maneuver. On the flip side, and there are two of them. The first is it's hardly the most. What we're talking like is the flatlands in America, where they're really actually, Kansas is a little more so. This side I think is more yeah, it's just flat open farmlands like forever. That's Nebraska. I thought it was. Oh, yeah, there we go. It's your farmland. Anyway, right. So, yeah, that's the sort of terrain that they're looking at in the Donetsk region, or south of Donetsk. And so, is there any obvious way to cut off this salient? So let's get roughly zoomed out. So the salient looks roughly like this. There is no obvious uh, geographical region why cutting this salient off is actually going to be particularly easy. So yeah, I don't see the only thing that really works in its favor is frontline length. Yeah, this one works on sort of a surface area thing. And the flip side is, of course, that whilst in classical wars of maneuver, yeah, the wide open spaces. Oops, I'm on the wrong one. In the classical wars of maneuver, the wide open spaces are good. With modern weaponry, I'm not so sure. Right? So this also means that if your tanks are driving down here, there's no cover for them either. So the lack of cover cuts both ways here. So I'm not entirely sure how this is going to pan out. So yeah, this is roughly the salient that they would have to cut off. Anyway, so those are my brief thoughts on 70 minutes on what's likely to happen. I mean, this is the obvious line of attack, yeah, given Russia's previous performance. But no, yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Anyway, so I hope you found that useful, and I will see you next time.